Thank you for taking the time to wait, seeing all these movies, and now you're here for me. Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
And in a positive way. Yes, because when all of this was going on, people were there for me, but they weren't positive. So this is a big turnaround. Many years ago, when this incident happened between my son and the other children who were selected to be a part of this case by, well, you like to think the supreme being, but whoever put us in this space and put us in this position. And it was kind of an unlikely role, because it's not the type of thing that none of you or I would think, wow, gee, let me pick this road over here, the one with all the rocks in it. Most of the times we want it, smooth and easy. But it's not an easy process. And through life, I guess, you always find that there are times when things don't really go the way you hope, and you still have to keep moving and trying to make the best out of a very bad situation. It's not easy when you have children who have been picked up by the police and have been accused of rape, charged with rape, convicted of rape, and who are spending years in jail, because all of them really spent a long time away from their families. And for many of them, when you go through this process and you're away, you don't know really what's happening and how to deal with what's happening to you, because this is happening to, well, actually children. It's happening to children. And their whole lives are being framed by this type of an experience that is ongoing. And you want things to change and be positive, and you want your child to come out of it as I would say, as whole as possible. You want them to be that child you knew, if that's possible. But you don't know what's happening inside, because it's beyond your comprehension, and you're not inside, you're outside going through these things. And you're constantly in a state of fear, because you hear all of these stories about the different types of things that happen to people who are incarcerated. And the majority of them are not really very pleasant. And you wonder about this stuff as you go through it. In the beginning, there were times when we would walk down the street, people would cross the street, they would curse us out, they would spit at us, and do all types of things, and we received all kind of death threats. And I remember once that my aunt had come and she was staying with us, and I had the phone turned off, but in the meantime she had the phone turned on, in my name of all things. So one day she picked up the phone, and I guess the person was cursing her out at the other end, and so she started saying, "Oh, Jesus, yes, let's pray together. Jesus is going to bring us through all of this. Hallelujah." And so they are praying on the phone. And so I imagine the other party on the other end also started praying. And I said to her when they finally hung up, I said, "Well, you would have had this problem if you had just put the phone in a different name. Didn't you think, well, why did she have the phone turned off?" But we lived through all of that, and we made it. We all, as parents, want to see our children as often as we could through all kind of situations. I remember Ms. Wise saying to me one time, she had gone up to see her son. It was way up, mine was way up too at a certain point, but it was way up. And they had been riding 7 hours, she said, on the bus. And she said she could see the jail. But the guy said it was so much snow they couldn't go to the jail, and they couldn't let them off the bus. So you have all of this stuff going on in your lives, and you're trying to save the person who's behind in the jail, and you have children at home who you're also committed to their safety and helping them to move forward in a very human kind of way. I know you're sitting here and you're probably wondering, well, why isn't she talking about the story? Well, you all have just seen the story. The majority of this story, in ways, really captures the feelings of the time. And it captures what we, as family members, in most part, were going through. But the reality is that my son did 7 years in prison, and Raymond and Antoine and Corey, well, not Corey, Raymond, Antoine, Yusef, and Kevin did 7 years. They were sentenced from 5 to 10, and they did 7 of the years behind bars. And they did 3 years out on the street under supervision. So that means you're on parole, you got people watching, you're a registered sex offender on the highest level. So, it's not that many people want to give you any kind of work. And during all that time, Corey, he's still in jail because he did 13 years. He was sentenced to 5 to 15. So he did 13 years and he had 2 more to go before he could come out. But he came out and the rest of them came out. And when they came out, it was like a new beginning, a fresh start, a way to clean the slate, but in a quiet kind of way, because all of that media that followed us during the beginning of this story weren't there to ring the bell and shout from the rooftops, oh, they were really innocent. We made a mistake. They moved forward with what it is they had to say. And in moving forward, you have many people even today wonder if they are really innocent, or were they, like the DA said, part of the group, and they finally found, what was it, the 6th man? It's almost like the invisible person. Have you ever seen that show, The Invisible Person? So it's almost like they found this invisible person. And this invisible person had his own story to tell. And at that point, you had heard so many times that they did it, that you began to believe inside your being that they really did it. And you only heard from this invisible person a couple of times that they really didn't do it, it was me. And when you go and you see how this unfolded, because I remember saying to them many times, you need to go out and really do some investigation because you got the wrong people. And instead of doing the investigation, they were locked in to these convictions. Because you go in, and I imagine at a certain point, you convince yourself that people are guilty. So once you become convinced, it's like, why should you like look for someone else? We can make this work. But while you're making this work, other crimes are being committed. Because after this, Matias Reyes went on and he killed a pregnant woman. He was still raping and killing all kinds of people as this was happening. And when he talked about how he began his adventure into this type of behavior, and he really was the type of person who had fallen through so many of the cracks of our society. Because the first person he said that he raped was his mother. She was his experiment so he could get it right, so he started raping her. And You know, being a Southern person, you don't really hear too much of that in the Southern families. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying people don't go out and walk around talking about I'm going around raping my mother. So they try to keep that kind of on it. What do they say? They're down low? They don't want that known in the community if it's happening. So that's what he talked about, how she was the first one. And he had raped so many other people. He was known as the East Side Rapist, so they had his MO on file already. And one of the things he said he would always ask the women that he raped was, your life or your eyes? So you had to choose between seeing or dying at that instant. And when they discovered that woman in the park, she had lost so much of her blood, they thought that she was, had several wounds someplace in her body. So they was looking high and low for the various wounds. And it was one wound on her head where he had began the process of digging out her eyes. He had her tied up like a pig. Have you all ever been to a farm to see how they tie those animals up with their back feet, their front feet together and roped them there? She had been tied up with her t-shirt like she was an animal as she lay there and blood dripping out on the ground. But that's how he did all of them. They tied them all up. He either dug their eyes out or he killed them. So when you say to the police, go and investigate, and his MO already being on file and DNA from some of the crimes that he had done already being on file, and then you see that at least one of the detectives was in both cases, and no one decided to check. This is one of the reasons today that we talk about the need and the importance of accountability in policing and justice in policing. Because these are people who are supposed to be trained and who are trained to protect the communities, and they're trained in the law. They should know what is legal for them to do and what's not legal for them to do, and they should also know how to manage and run a police investigation. And when you make mistakes, you should also be trained in a way that you can own up to the mistake that you've made. There are people today who ask me if I have forgiven those people who did these things to us and to me. And I have to honestly say, every day I get up and I forgive them. And at the end of the day, I'm not so forgiving. But in the morning, I'll get up and I'll forgive them again. But the reality is no one has asked me for forgiveness, so I have no one to forgive. They all talk about how they got it right. And yes, he finally confessed, but he really was the sixth man. He really was. And when you don't want to let go of that, you can't move forward with forgiveness. You can't move forward with understanding and acceptance. And you can't move forward with the reality that you actually got it wrong. You made a mistake. And you need to atone for your sins. We live in our communities in very trying situations and in very trying times. These things that happen to our families could happen to anybody, any family, and they're still happening today. There are thousands of people who are incarcerated, who are innocent. Yes. There are people on death row, yes, who might die tomorrow who did not commit the crime. People who might die because the governor or some higher up refuses to do the new DNA test. They want to show some tough justice, even if it's at the expense of an innocent person. There's a lot of things that we need to change in this society, particularly around how the justice system works and how it treats people in our communities. When I think of the U.S. system, it kind of reminds me of a movie I saw once where they had this character in it whose name was Stalin. And Stalin was telling people in his community in Russia that, there was a crime that had been committed. And he said that they had to solve the crime. And he said it didn't matter if they got the wrong person or the right person, but they had to get somebody. Because the community had to know that someone had paid the price for this crime. Now, Stalin lived a long time ago. We are in a place in our time where we need to move beyond Stalin. We need to move to a place where we can find the right person. We can eliminate the high numbers of wrongfully incarcerated people who are in our prisons today. Like many of you sitting here, I didn't really know anything about prisons. This was all new to me. I was getting up, going to work every day. I did see the stuff on TV, but I didn't pay it any attention. It was just something I saw on TV. But you pay attention when it knocks on your door. When it calls your name, you start paying attention. And it's only then that you see and realize that, yes, there are thousands of people in these jails who are incarcerated, who are innocent. Yeah. And there are also a number of people in here who are guilty. And then you look and you say, well, gee, what are they doing to get these people prepared to come back into our communities? Are they turning them into hardened criminals? Or are they getting them ready so they can do the jobs that are necessary to fit into society the way we need them to fit into our society, so that they have an opportunity and so do we? When I look at you all in this audience, and I say to myself, I wonder how many people here know someone who is incarcerated or who's been incarcerated. Raise your hands if you know somebody. That's a lot of people. Wouldn't you like the people you know to come back and have some sort of skills, some sort of training? Some have worked out whatever kind of issues they're having to the best of their ability so that they can fit better into society, fit better into your community, and have a chance to flourish. Right now, we have 3 strikes and you're out. The first strike could be whatever you did the first time. The second strike, whatever you did the second time. And the third strike would be the stealing of an orange, but you're still out for life, behind bars, because that's the way our society is. Crime is down, but we still talk about building more and more jails to house people. Crime is down, and we still are trying to figure out more and more ways that we can put people in the jails that exist so that they can continue to be full. Yes, it is. But they have a solution to some of the situations now, unfortunately, because right now many of the immigrant population can go and fill these jails. We need to look at our society because we are all part of it. We're part of it in our silence. We're part of it with the few that speak out. If you want a change, you have to tell someone. Because no one is going to make the change if they're standing there and they're saying, get tough on crime, and you're saying, yay, get them, get them, get them. The only way that change is going to happen is when you demand it. And I know all of you know, so when I tell you this, a person who goes to jail for a year or half a year or whatever amount of time that is, or years, you spend more for them to be in jail than at Harvard.
Come on, sis.
But when they come out, they don't have the Harvard education. Many of them work while they're in jail. And they might make 50 cents an hour. They might work for free, but they're doing something in that jail. When they come out of jail, whether they work for Toys R Us in jail, or Amazon in jail, or whatever company they work for in jail, they can't walk over to Toys R Us and say, listen, I've been working for you 10 years in jail. Can I have a job?
Absolutely not.
What do you think the answer is going to be? No. It's somehow you all grabbed a hold of that no quickly. So you knew what that was going to happen. That's part of the change we're talking about. When people do the time for whatever crimes they commit, then there should be opportunities on the other line that helps them and guides them in a way that they can move forward with their lives instead of back into the system. But that really takes a fundamental change. That means that each one of us in this room and outside this room, we have to impact on others, that we want our whole system to change. One that's going to change into a prison type of environment that breeds a community that helps us get on our feet, instead of one that's filling a jail prophecy so that people are getting rich off of people who are in jail. There's a lot of money in jails.
Absolutely.
A lot of money. Prisons are one of the biggest stocks on the stock exchange. We can change. We can do something to make things work better for all of us. Thank you.